Okay, I'll go ahead and get started this morning by just officially welcoming all of you guys. Sawadee Kap. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. Good morning. Welcome to all of you guys that are here. Welcome to those of you guys that are joining us online as well. Today is our Pali Canon and English study group. This is where we study the original teachings of the Buddha through books and resources to help you on the path to enlightenment. The path to enlightenment is to train your mind to get to this peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you're no longer experiencing any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, boredom, loneliness, shyness, resentment, jealousy. Even the slightest displeasure is eliminated from the enlightened mind. In learning the teachings of the Buddha is the way to accomplish that. That you investigate his teachings, you examine them, and then you reflect on them to independently verify them, and then you practice them. So the way that we start our class is we start with a meditation to be able to help you guys learn about meditation. And meditation is one of the aspects of what you would need in order to get to enlightenment. One of the tools, one of the techniques. But there's other things you would need as well. And that's why we study the original words of the Buddha so that you can learn what he actually taught. So if you'd like to join for meditation, I'll guide you guys in meditation to help you guys understand how to meditate. And then we'll move into studying the words of the Buddha in our class, and I'll explain to you how we do that. So if you'd like to join for meditation, I start with some chanting. The chants are on a laminated sheet over there on the table. You can see the original chanting that we use. You're welcome to get those if you like. There's plenty of them for all of you guys. It has the chants in the Pali language. The Pali language is the original language that the teachings of the Buddha are captured in. So we chant in this original language because during the lifetime of the Buddha, his students would chant as a way to remember the teachings. They didn't write the teachings down during his life. So every 2 weeks, they would recite the teachings word for word for word. And this is the way to commit the teachings to memory and then actually be able to practice them and train the mind. Nowadays, we don't need to chant in order to remember the teachings because we have books and videos and podcasts and all these other ways to capture the teachings. But I still chant in order to ease the mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. When you hear this chanting, you're welcome to chant along if you'd like. It's not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. It just helps to ease the mind into meditation, kind of bringing some invigoration to the mind, kind of bringing some attentiveness and alertness to the mind, and some awareness of the mind and awareness of the breath, so you actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. If you get these chants and you start reading the English translations on them, you'll see that there's a lot of admiration and respect for the Buddha in these chants. I suspect that the Buddha didn't actually create these chants himself, that it was probably his students, either during his life or after his death, that created these chants. Because a Buddha doesn't walk around teaching people to chant to him. This would come from the ego or the arrogance or the pride or the ego. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you've eliminated all of that. You're no longer walking around arrogant and boastful and egotistical. So he wouldn't have taught these chants, but I suspect his students, having a great deal of admiration and respect for him, helping them move from the anger and sadness and frustration and all those other discontent feelings to this peace and joy, which is a permanent mental state. The Buddha didn't want anything from his students. He didn't expect anything. He didn't ask anything. They just learned his teachings through him practicing generosity and giving and sharing. By him having loving kindness and compassion, he was willing to share those teachings without any expectation of anything in return. So if somebody helped you move from that anger and sadness and frustration and all those other discontent feelings to this peace and joy, you'd probably have a lot of respect and admiration for that person too. So I suspect that's the reason why these chants were created, because his students had a great deal of admiration, respect, and gratitude for him. So I'm going to ease us into meditation with the chanting. Then once we get into the meditation, I'll provide some guidance, as you guys will hear me kind of talking a bit as you're meditating, and I'll just be kind of guiding you in the meditation. And then for about 5 minutes, I'll be doing that, but then I'll actually be quiet for a period of time where we'll just all be meditating together. You'll hear an occasional bird chirp, maybe a dog bark, maybe a car go by or something like this, because you can't be in permanent silence. It's not possible for things to be permanently silent. So you'll hear the guidance in the meditation that when you hear something or when you experience something, some thought in the mind, you'll cut that off and bring the mind back to the breath. That's essentially what you're going to be doing. You'll hear me guide you on how to do that once we get into the meditation. So after that period of time where it's just kind of quiet and we're meditating together, those of us here and those of you online, then I'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then we'll move into our class today. In terms of how you might decide to sit for meditation, I see most of you guys are on cushions, but you're welcome to get chairs too. Some people like to have multiple cushions. If you'd like to have multiple cushions, get as many as you like to feel comfortable, or if you'd like to have a chair at any point, feel free. There's no certificates or awards given for sitting on the floor, right? Just make yourself comfortable. You're not interested in the body being painful, but you're also not interested in being luxurious either. You're interested in it being in the middle where it's nice and comfortable. So the way that most people will sit, and this isn't about everyone doing it exactly the same way, you'll need to find a way that's comfortable for you, is people will sit cross-legged on the mat. Or some people like to put their legs off the mat because this gets the hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles and allows the circulation to flow. So you'd like your legs to just be lightly crossed. Then the hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together and he put this into his lap. But again, this isn't about everyone doing it exactly the same way. Some people might find that it's comfortable to put their palms on their thighs or their knees or their palms up. So you can take whatever position you like to feel comfortable. The Buddha taught 4 positions for meditation: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you'll need these at different times in your meditation practice because you can't permanently be in just one position all the time. You're going to potentially need to change at different times. So find a position with the lower body and the hands and arms that's comfortable, not luxurious and not painful, but comfortable. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. And by keeping the sternum up and the shoulders back, it allows you to breathe into the lungs much better. So having the upper body erect will keep the mind attentive and alert. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be erect where it's nice and in the middle. Not slouched, but not real rigid either, but in the middle. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with some chanting that you guys are welcome to join along in. Or you might just decide to close your eyes and breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. And then I'll come in with some guidance after the chanting. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Wat Tung Mahakevanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakevata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakevato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakeva Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vichacharanang Sammuno สคาโตโรกาวิตู อนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสตาตาวามานุสนังโอโตภะคะวะติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, establishing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาพุทธังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามานุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you'd like to slowly take your mind out of meditation, I'd like to once again welcome all of you guys, those of you guys that are here, as well as those of you guys that are online. Welcome to everyone. As I mentioned, today is called our Pali Canon and English study group, and I'll explain to you guys in a moment what this study group is all about, but I'd like to just kind of give you guys a little bit of information as a bit of an introduction to what we're going to be doing. The teachings of the Buddha, they're not about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning teachings, you're reflecting on those to independently verify them, and you're practicing them in order to train your mind. As you train your mind, you're uprooting certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. There's 10 individual pollutions that are referred to as the 10 fetters. This word fetter comes from a shackle, a chain, and a ball that it was used during ancient times in order to keep a prisoner trapped in a certain place. So a fetter is this chain and this shackle and this ball that keeps somebody trapped. So these 10 fetters or these 10 pollutions are keeping the mind trapped in this unenlightened state where it experiences anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, boredom, loneliness, shyness, resentment, jealousy, certain displeasures. So you can eradicate all of those feelings by eliminating these pollutions of the mind. So it's training the mind that's going to allow you to be able to do that. You need to be able to get to wisdom. You can't believe your way to a peaceful and joyful mind. It's not possible. So the teachings of the Buddha, you'll never see anywhere that he says, just believe me, just believe me. Instead, you're examining his teachings, you're investigating them, you're learning them. And that's why people come to the temple or read books or consult with a teacher and all the various things you do in order to learn the teachings. then you don't believe those teachings. You reflect on them to independently verify whether they're true or whether they're false. And then you practice the teachings. And part of that practice is the meditation, like we just did. But there's other aspects of practice of where you're practicing the teachings all throughout your day. There's a core central teaching of the Buddha called the Eightfold Path. And all the other teachings plug into this. And this is the perfect plan that's going to help you to understand how to move your mind to this enlightened mental state, where the mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, permanently, never again experiencing any discontent feelings. This occurs through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. One of the biggest myths about the life of the Buddha is people think he sat under a tree, he meditated, and he instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. It's a gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And you know that to be true because everything in your life that you've ever done has been that way. Whether it's learning how to speak English or read or write English, it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And here you are. You can understand what it is that somebody's saying in English. Whether it's your job or occupation or even learning how to ride a bicycle, it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. So getting to this enlightened mental state is the same way. So that's what an individual is doing on the path to enlightenment, is they're learning the wisdom of what we refer to as the natural laws of existence. The natural laws of existence is what the Buddha taught. He's explaining to you the world around you. He didn't give you a bunch of rules or commandments to follow. He wasn't trying to force you or guilt you or shame you into doing anything. He wasn't explaining that the way that the world should be. He's explaining to you in his teachings the way the world is. And by understanding the way the world is through these natural laws, then you will have wisdom because you're learning, reflecting, and practicing to cultivate the wisdom to understand the world around you. Because when you don't understand the world around you, you will struggle. You will have difficulties. This is one of the reasons why the mind experiences anger, sadness, frustration, or any other discontent feeling. When you're confronted with a certain situation, you will struggle when you don't understand the natural laws of existence. But when you awaken to the wisdom of these natural laws, then you can make wise decisions that produces wholesome results. But with the lack of wisdom, you're going to naturally make unwise decisions that produce unwholesome results and not necessarily know what it was that you did that caused that particular situation. Typically, what we do in the unenlightened state is we blame other people for what we experience. Or we might say this is good luck or bad luck. Or we might say this is my destiny or my fate. But none of this stuff is actually true. Everything that you experience is a result of certain decisions that you're making. And by gaining wisdom of these natural laws, you can make wiser decisions that then produce wholesome results in your life. So the teachings of the Buddha, they're timeless. What he's doing is he's explaining these natural laws, and they're the same natural laws that existed over 2,500 years ago that exist today. So when you learn and practice his teachings, you can come to the wisdom of these natural laws, and then this is why your mind and your life becomes so peaceful and joyful, because you can now navigate the world through these natural laws. When you lack wisdom of these natural laws, you'll struggle and have difficulties, just like you did with the natural law of gravity. When you were growing up, you really struggled with this natural law of gravity. You fell down, you hit your head, you broke your toys, you had all kinds of difficulties. And then slowly but surely, you gradually learned about this natural law of gravity, and now you fully awoke to the wisdom of the natural law of gravity, and you make wiser decisions because of that wisdom. You tie your shoes kind of tight, you look at the surface of the sidewalk when you walk, you aren't maybe so jumping around like we were when we were children, jumping around and giddy. We're calm when we walk down the street and making sure we don't trip and fall over our feet. We make certain decisions like this glass of water that I have, that I don't put it out here in front of me because it can easily be tipped over. I decide to put that behind me because of this wisdom of the natural law of gravity, right? So we make these wiser decisions because we have more wisdom, and then we experience more wholesome results. But when we lacked wisdom, we made unwise decisions that produced unwholesome results. So there's other natural laws besides the natural law of gravity that is happening in the world that your mind is currently unawakened to. And what the teachings of the Buddha are doing are helping you to awaken to that. And what we say awaken, what we mean is gain wisdom of those natural laws, so that then you can learn them, investigate them, examine them, you can reflect on them and independently verify them, and then you can practice in such a way that produces wholesome results for yourself. And because these natural laws are around you all the time that you're just unaware of, you can actually directly investigate these teachings and independently verify that these natural laws are indeed happening around you. One of the primary natural laws that the Buddha is awakening you to is what's called the natural law of Gama. Some people call it karma. This word karma is from the Sanskrit language. The word Gama is from the Pali language. The original teachings of the Buddha are captured in the Pali language. This is the largest, most complete collection we have of the teachings of the Buddha. It's called the Pali Canon. It's in 45 large volumes of books about this big. It's about 5 inches, maybe 10 centimeters thick, right? So this Pali Canon contains the teachings of the Buddha that you learn, reflect on, and practice. And he's helping you to understand this natural law of Gama, which is cause and effect, or action and result. If this translated to just one English word, I would use that because it's easier to use that, but it doesn't. So I need to explain it to you what this natural law is this cause and effect, or action and result. Every decision you make is going to produce some kind of result or some kind of effect. The natural law of Gama, it isn't punishments and rewards. It's not a mystical, magical thing. It's the results of your decisions. There's no being that's overseeing this natural law. There's no entity that's overseeing this and deciding who gets punished and who gets rewarded. It's not even about who's at blame or who's at fault. It's about a sequence of events that when you make certain decisions, there's going to be some effect. So for example, if you're polite, kind, friendly, and respectful, people tend to be polite, kind, and friendly, respectful to you too. That's a result of your decisions. By you choosing to be polite, kind, friendly, respectful, people tend to be polite, kind, friendly, respectful to you. And then conversely, if you're impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful, people will tend to be that way with you as well. That's a result of your decisions. That's your karma. So when you make wise decisions, you experience wholesome karma. And when you make unwise decisions, you experience unwholesome karma. And it's through learning this natural law inside and out, backwards and forwards, that you gain the wisdom of how to make wiser decisions in your life so that you can experience only wholesome results. But with a lack of wisdom of this natural law, you're going to naturally make unwise decisions that produce unwholesome results. Not because you're a bad person, not because you need to be punished or anything like that, but just because of your lack of wisdom, this unknowing of true reality. So the teachings of the Buddha are here for you to be able to learn and understand and be able to see the truth for yourself about this natural law. And then as you make wiser and wiser decisions, you'll experience more and more wholesome results in your life. The Pali Canon and English Study Group, what we do is we study volumes 2 through 13 of this book series that I share. I have a 13-book series that I share. We have a program called the Group Learning Program that on Sundays and Wednesdays, we go through volume 1 of the book series, and I go chapter by chapter each Sunday, helping a student to gain a really strong foundation and framework on the path to enlightenment so that you understand how to progress towards enlightenment. And this is a 7-month program that students will take slowly but surely over the 7 months. On Sundays, they will hear a teaching from me about a particular chapter. Of course, we do meditation together. And then on Wednesday, we do meditation together, and I open up to any and all questions. Students can attend that here at the temple, but they can also attend by live stream or through Zoom and things like that, because we live stream and have Zoom open for all of our classes. So that's typically where a student will start, is in the group learning program. And sometimes students will take that program more than one time as they're gradually learning. And using these books that you can download for free, you can take them and go print them, or you can get printed copies here or on Amazon if you have access to Amazon. And the printed versions, we just ask that you reimburse us for our printing costs, because we're interested in seeing you get access to the teachings so that you can then train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state. And then on Saturdays, we have this Pali Canon and English study group where we study volumes 2 through 13. And this is a 1.5 year program where each Saturday we cover 10 chapters. And what I typically do is I open up to students here at the temple and those of you guys in Zoom that if you would like to read one of the chapters are sometimes just one paragraph or, half a page or a page. I show them on the screen here. And then after a student reads it, then I spend about 5 or 10 minutes teaching about that particular topic. And then I open up to any questions that you guys might have related to that particular topic. Right now in the group learning program, we're in volume 11 of the book series. And volume 11 is titled The Realms of Existence. This is where you're learning about the cycle of rebirth. The Buddha taught about hell realm, the animal realm, the afflicted spirit realm, the human realm, and the heavenly realm. And he taught these realms for a reason. These realms of existence were taught for a reason. You don't believe in the realms of existence. You don't believe in the cycle of rebirth. That's not how you would come to understand this. But instead, as you learn and develop your practice, you can actually get to the point where you can independently verify that these realms exist and this cycle of rebirth. It's not something that someone would start with. So if this is the first time you've been here, which I know many of you guys, this is your first time here, this isn't typically where somebody will start with their journey to enlightenment, but nonetheless, you'll be able to learn something today. This volume 11 is volume 11 for a reason, because typically someone will have been studying with me for a good year and a half, 2 years before they get to this point. But I'm going to be sharing this with you because there's a few people here that have been studying with me regularly, and there's people online that study with me regularly that are here to learn this particular content. But just understand that there's other programs, courses, and retreats where you can really get started. In fact, tomorrow we have the group learning program in the morning at 9 a.m. And then starting at 3 p.m. tomorrow, we have a retreat that's going to be starting. That's a 5-day retreat that'll walk you through all the foundational teachings and then even additional teachings that are going to help you get to what's called the first stage of enlightenment. There's 4 stages that the mind goes through as you get closer and closer to enlightenment. And you guys are welcome to attend all the classes, courses, and retreats that I share, either here or online, and they're all available to you at no cost. So even this retreat that I'm starting tomorrow, I'm going to be live streaming it, and people are going to be joining by Zoom. So you guys are welcome to come here and attend any portion of that, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. It's up to you. You can attend the whole thing. You can attend part of it here, part of it online, totally up to you. But if you're interested in learning how to train your mind to get to this peaceful and joyful mental state, I'm here to be able to help you do that. But I would just like to give you a heads up that the topics that we're going to be studying today is not typically where somebody will start, because there's a core central teachings that you really need in order to lay a foundation and get a real framework before you move into learning the cycle of rebirth. The reason why the Buddha taught the cycle of rebirth is because this is 100% the truth of what is truly happening in the world around us. And when you independently verify that, like some people have, you can see that and know that to be the truth for yourself. So he's teaching you not the way the world should be, he's teaching you the way the world is. And understanding how the world is related to the cycle of rebirth is very important, because with pollution in the mind, you will only be able to understand what's going on in your life right now. Perhaps in the last 3, 5, 10 years, you kind of have an understanding of what's been going on in your life. But what's been happening prior to this, your mind may not have any recollection of that. But as you lift out the pollution out of your mind, you might start having experiences of observing residual memories from your past lives. And this can really shake you up if you don't understand the cycle of rebirth. So as the Buddha was teaching all of his core central teachings and people are eliminating the pollution out of their mind, people experienced the recall of residual memories from previous lives. So if you started having memories of like this horrific murder and this is coming up in your mind and in your thoughts, it could shake you up if you didn't realize that perhaps that was one of your previous lives, or some other traumatic experience that has occurred in your past lives that would really shake you up if you didn't understand the cycle of rebirth. Or if you started experiencing communication with beings from these other realms, these realms of hell, the animal realm, afflicted spirits, human realm, and the heavenly realm, these beings can actually communicate with human beings. These realms are not in far distant places, like the heavenly realm isn't like far off in the sky somewhere. The hell realm isn't deep down into the core of the earth somewhere. These beings are all within the same time and space. So if you started experiencing communication or maybe even seeing these beings, even though they're formless beings, like hell, afflicted spirits, and heavenly realm, they're formless beings. If you saw these beings, it could shake you up if you didn't understand the way the world is. So the Buddha is explaining to you the way the world is, but you should never believe any of these things. So the chapters that we're going to be studying today in this book series is volume 11, chapter 41 through 50. And as I mentioned, I usually invite somebody here at the temple, or those of you guys that are in Zoom, you're welcome to read any of these chapters and volunteering. And we have microphones here in this white bowl that if you guys were interested in volunteering to read this chapter, as you can see here, this one is just one page down to that one line. If you could use the microphone, because that way the people online will be able to hear you. There's a little gray button on the front. You can just press it. Just wait a second, and then if you start talking into it with the mic up near your chin, then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. Those of you guys that are in Zoom, if you'd like to volunteer, you can just electronically raise your hand. I'll see that, and then you'll be able to open your mic, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple. Everybody can ask questions at any point in time, either here at the temple or online. If you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can put your question into the comment section and I'll see that and be able to answer your question. And if you're in Zoom, again, you can electronically raise your hand and ask questions that way as well. So this is just a little bit of background information to bring us to this Pali Canon and English study group where we're studying the teachings of the Buddha. Where other courses and retreats, what I'm doing is I'm teaching in a more traditional method, where this is more of a study group. So is there anyone here or online that would like to volunteer to read this first chapter? Sure, Siddharth, go ahead. And you guys can pass those mics around as you guys need to.
Terrible and harsh prison of hell and prison of animal realm. So too, monks, when one does not have confidence in cultivating wholesome qualities, when one does not have a sense of moral wrongdoing in cultivating wholesome qualities, when one does not have moral concern in cultivating wholesome qualities, when one does not have energy in cultivating wholesome qualities, when one does not have wisdom in cultivating wholesome qualities in the noble one's discipline, one is called a poor, impoverished, needy person, having no confidence, no sense of moral wrongdoing, no moral concern, no energy, no wisdom in cultivating wholesome qualities. That poor, impoverished, needy person engages in misconduct by body, speech, and mind. This, I say, is his getting into debt. To conceal his bodily misconduct, to conceal his verbal misconduct, to conceal his mental misconduct, he nurtures an evil, unwholesome desire. He wishes, let no one know me. He intends with the desire, let no one know me. He speaks statements with the desire, let no one know me. He makes bodily endeavors with the desire, let no one know me. This, I say, is the interest he must pay. Well-behaved fellow monks speak.
We lose the batteries? Yeah, there's some more in the charger there when you guys need them.
Well-behaved fellow monks speak thus about him. This venerable one acts in such a way, behaves in such a way, this, I say, is his being advised. When he has gone to the forest, to the foot of a tree, or to an empty dwelling, evil, unwholesome thoughts, accompanied by remorse, attack him. This, I say, is his prosecution. Then, With the breakup of the body after death, that poor, impoverished, needy person who engaged in misconduct by body, speech, and mind is bound in the prison of hell or the prison of the animal realm. I do not see, monks, any other prison that is as terrible and harsh and such an obstacle to attaining the unsurpassed security from bondage, enlightenment, as the prison of hell or the prison of the animal realm.
Okay, thank you, Siddhart. So it's important to understand that when the Buddha is teaching about these various realms, he had the wisdom of this because he observed his past lives and his existences in these various realms. So prior to his birth as a Buddha, he ultimately experienced other births as well, in the human realm, in the heavenly realm, and even in the realm of hell, the animal realm, and afflicted spirits. So he has all this wisdom about these various realms. And there's individuals today that also have had those similar experiences where they can observe their past lives in these various realms to be able to independently confirm this for themselves. And he's never using rebirth in these other realms as a way to guilt, shame, or fear someone into learning and practicing his teachings. Because remember, what he's helping you to be able to do is eliminate guilt, shame, and fear. So he's not going to use guilt, shame, and fear as a way to help you eliminate guilt, shame, and fear. He's just explaining to you what's truly transpiring and helping you to be able to understand how the world is, so that then you can practice and train your mind. So when he's talking here about these various realms, he's just helping people to understand what is experienced and what actually truly goes on in the world. And here, this first part, what he's talking about is he's kind of helping you to gain this perspective of someone who doesn't have confidence in wholesome qualities and cultivating those wholesome qualities. Confidence would help you to be able to propel you to developing wisdom more and more through the teachings that the Buddha shares. He shares with you at different times this natural law of karma. He teaches you things like about lying or stealing or having sexual misconduct. He teaches you about things like speaking harshly or aggressively or argumentatively. And you can take those things and you can see that when you've done those things, it's produced unwholesome results for you. He's not trying to push you or pressure you into being any particular way, because whatever you choose to do, you're the one that's experiencing those results. Remember, he got to this peaceful and joyful mental state, and what he did for the remaining time of his life, from the age of 35 to 80, is he helped people to understand what it took for him to get to that peaceful and joyful mental state so that other people could experience that same mental state as well. So he's just helping those people who choose to be able to learn and understand what he has to share. So having confidence in his teachings to cultivate these wholesome qualities, this is you getting rid of the pollution of mind and cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind, getting rid of the unwholesome qualities. This moral wrongdoing, what this is cultivating the ability to understand what's wise and what's unwise. Right now, with a lack of wisdom of the natural law of karma, there are certain unwise decisions that you're making that you don't even realize that are necessarily unwise decisions, because you don't necessarily have this sense of moral wrongdoing, knowing what's wise or unwise in any particular situation. And again, what we typically do in the unenlightened state is when we make a decision and then it goes off in the world and it comes back and you experience unwholesome results, one of the first things you might do is blame somebody else for what you're experiencing. Or you might say it's good luck or bad luck, or your destiny or your fate. But in reality, this is just a lack of wisdom of this natural law. And when you make those unwise decisions, it produces unwholesome results. But when you cultivate this moral wrongdoing, understanding what's wise and unwise, you will know with 100% certainty what is wise, what is unwise, and you will naturally choose to do wise things because you see that it produces wholesome results in your life. So an individual in the path to enlightenment is cultivating this moral wrongdoing. What moral concern is this is having the concern to do wholesome things. That once you understand moral wrongdoing and you have a certain moral wrongdoing, that now you have a concern that you're not interested in causing harm to other beings in the world. Because once you understand this natural law of karma, the Buddha is teaching you harmful decisions that you could make that would cause harm to others. And because of that harm then comes back to you. So by having moral concern, you're concerned about other beings and not interested in causing harm to others. And now you use your moral wrongdoing, which is understanding what's wise and unwise, to make wise decisions that doesn't cause harm to others. So cultivating this moral concern is an important part of the path to enlightenment. Then he's talking about cultivating this energy. And energy is like initiative or willingness to do something, ambition, having the ambition and willingness to do the work to actually cultivate your mind, because it's challenging to cultivate the mind. What the unenlightened mind typically wants to do is it wants to stay complacent. It wants to be lethargic or dull typically. It's not interested in applying energy and effort to improving and changing and doing this inner work. Essentially, what the path to enlightenment is, it's to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to ever hurt again. Right? That's what the Buddha is teaching you, is to how to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. But what the unenlightened mind falsely perceives is that what hurt you is outside of you. And you might try to change something outside of you. You might try to fix other people, thinking that that's going to solve your problems. But the real issue is inside one's own mind. And when you clarify the mind and you purify the mind, cleaning it out of the pollution or the defilement or the taints, also referred to as the fetters, when you eliminate that pollution, you'll experience complete liberation of the mind, where you won't have those strong feelings that I mentioned that are discontent, like the anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So by having this energy, this willingness to do something, this ambition, this initiative, that's what's going to ultimately propel you to carry you forward to developing your life practice and doing this real inner work to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt again. Then this wisdom is what you cultivate as part of the path to enlightenment through learning, through reflecting, through practicing. That's how you actually cultivate the wisdom of how to train the mind. And as you learn how to train the mind, you eradicate those pollutions. This is where you see the focus, the concentration, the clarity, the deep memory, the personal and professional relationships will drastically improve. You'll get to the point where you won't have any bitterness and hostility in any of your relationships whatsoever. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't even have the slightest dislike towards another person. This is something that you may not be able to have right now. Right now, you might be certain people you like and certain people that you dislike, right? But by the time you get to enlightenment, you won't have any of that whatsoever. You'll get to the point where you can have loving kindness and compassion for all beings. You might disagree with somebody's decisions, but you can love the person. And this comes with training of your mind. And the wisdom of how to do that is what the Buddha is sharing. So the Buddha is saying if somebody doesn't have these qualities, that this is a poor, impoverished, and needy person. Essentially, the Buddha is helping you to be able to understand and kind of change your perspective of what you see as having wealth and financially rich, perhaps, versus being poor. He's describing someone who is poor as lacking wisdom. If you have wisdom of the path to enlightenment, you're very rich, you're very wealthy, because now your mind can be calm and peaceful and joyful no matter what's going on in the world around you. Right now, when you see certain things in the world, your mind gets shaken up. But by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind can be peaceful and joyful no matter what. That in this situation, you're very wealthy and very rich, but lacking these qualities, the Buddha is describing and changing, helping you to change your perspective and see something more clearly that, okay, this is being poor and impoverished if you lack these particular things. So now somebody having no sense of confidence or wrongdoing or moral concern or energy or wisdom, the Buddha is saying, okay, not only are they a poor, needy person, but they engage in this misconduct by body, speech, and mind, meaning that you cause harm to others. And now this harm is going to come back to you because you just lack wisdom. You're not a bad person. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just that you lack wisdom of this natural law. So the Buddha is saying this is somebody going into debt, because as you cause harm to others, that harm is going to come back to you at some point in this life or some future life. So the more harm that you're causing in the world, you're just going into debt more and more and more. You're going to need to experience these unwholesome results coming back to you. And then what someone might do is they might try to conceal their bodily misconduct, their verbal misconduct, or their mental misconduct. If you've ever done this, where I'm sure we all did growing up, right? At least when we were kids, we tried to hide something from our parents that we know we did wrong, and we try to hide it and don't let other people know about it. The Buddha is saying, okay, when you do this, this is the interest that you must pay. That you must pay this interest because you're hiding the unwise things that you're doing. And now the Buddha is saying, here he says, well-behaved fellow monks speak thus about him. This venerable one acts in such a way, behaves in such a way. This, I say, is his being advised, meaning that people are going to gossip and slander you when they see you doing unwise things. Then he's saying, okay, when someone goes to the forest, to the foot of a tree, or to an empty dwelling, evil, unwholesome thoughts accompanied by remorse attack him. This is his prosecution. If you've ever been sitting alone somewhere, maybe in your room or laying on bed or sitting on the sofa, and the unwise things that you've done in the past are kind of attacking you and invading your thoughts, that's what he's talking about, where you felt guilt and you felt remorse. This is what the Buddha is saying, that this is the prosecution that you experience because of the lack of wisdom. You've done unwise things, and now when you're sitting alone, your thoughts can invade you and kind of attack you. And now the Buddha is saying that with the breakup of the body after death, this person who engages in this misconduct, the potential rebirth is in hell or the animal realm. And the Buddha describes these realms as a prison. And the reason why is because once you're reborn in those realms, it's very challenging to get out of them. None of these realms are permanent. The goal of this path to enlightenment isn't to be reborn in heaven and live there permanently. That's not the goal. Everything around us is impermanent. These realms of existence, they're not permanent. So someone who's being born in hell or the animal realm or afflicted spirits or this human realm or in the heavenly realm, it's not a permanent existence. For some reason, there's a lot of people in the world who think that these realms are permanent, that you go to a good place or a bad place after this life and that's it. But that's not actually true. But by being reborn into the hell realm or the animal realm, it's very challenging to get back out of that realm. For example, in the animal realm, there's a lot of killing just to sustain your life. As a tiger or a snake or a lion or something like this, you have to kill in order to eat. And this is causing a shorter lifespan. This is why those beings experience a short lifespan, because they're constantly killing. And because they're dependent on killing in order to survive, it takes them many, many rebirths to be able to get to an improved animal existence, like an elephant, which doesn't typically kill. It eats plants and doesn't really kill. It's more loving, more compassionate. Those beings are more likely to be reborn into the human realm. Or maybe like a rabbit or a turtle or something like that. These beings don't typically kill, and they're able to more readily be reborn into the human realm. So being in the animal realm, there's so many animals that are reliant on killing in order to survive that it's very challenging for them to get out of that realm. But ultimately they can. And then the same thing with the hell realm, that once you're there, there's such pain and agony that it's very challenging to get out of that realm. But ultimately they will. And the Buddha is saying that there's no other prison that is as terrible, as harsh as the hell realm and the animal realm. That is going to be an obstacle to attaining enlightenment. Here he describes it as the unsurpassed security from bondage. The bondage is the pollutions that are in the mind, keeping the mind bound up and trapped. But when you eliminate the pollutions, you're free. The mind is liberated. This is enlightenment. So getting to enlightenment, you can do that in the human realm and you can do that in the heavenly realm. But what the Buddha is saying is, being in the hell realm or the animal realm, this is very difficult to ever get to enlightenment, because in those lower realms, you can't train your mind enough to get to enlightenment. It's only once you get into the human realm or heavenly realm that you're able to then train your mind to be able to get to enlightenment. Where in the hell realm, animal realm, or afflicted spirit realm, they can cultivate their mind to a certain degree, but not enough to actually get to enlightenment. So he's saying that is a real prison, being in the hell realm or the animal realm. And he's just explaining what this is. He's not trying to, kind of doom and gloom or guilt or shame or punish you or, fear you into anything. He's just explaining true reality, that essentially what he gets to with this particular teaching and other teachings, if you look at the totality of his teachings, is he explains how the human realm is the ideal existence. Being in this existence, you can actually cultivate your mind and be able to see the real results. Because you're learning now, you're reflecting now, and you're practicing now, you can actually see the results now, that your mind becomes more peaceful and more joyful. And here in the human realm, we tend to have built-in motivation to be able to get to enlightenment, because in the human realm, we don't like those painful feelings. The anger, the sadness, the frustration, the irritation, the annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. You don't like it when you experience those things and others. So you tend to have built-in motivation that you're interested in getting away from these feelings. Where in the heavenly realm, even though they can get to enlightenment, they only experience pleasant feelings. So they don't tend to have the motivation and encouragement that we have here in the human realm. They tend to be somewhat complacent in the heavenly realm. And they're oftentimes reborn into other realms because they don't get to enlightenment in the heavenly realm. So this human existence is an ideal existence. And what the Buddha essentially gets to in a lot of these teachings, after he's described something like this, is he explains to you, don't allow this human existence to go to waste. Use it in order to train your mind and actually get to enlightenment so you can escape this constant rebirth over and over and over again. Because while there are certain aspects of life that are really fun and really enjoyable, in the unenlightened state, there are certain parts of your life that were quite miserable and quite difficult, and you'd rather not ever repeat ever again. By the time you get to enlightenment, everything in your life is at ease and is very peaceful and very joyful. But up until that point, the mind is experiencing a lot of misery in some cases, or grief or despair in certain situations. So you can escape all of that in this life and get to the peace and joy, experiencing that for the rest of your life. And then by the time you get to enlightenment, you'll know that you're not going to be coming back to experience any kind of grief or misery ever again. That from that point forward, from the mind being enlightened, not only is this life at ease and you're experiencing lots of peace and lots of joy, but anything that transpires from this point forward, your mind and your life is just completely peaceful and completely joyful. So let me see what questions you guys have here on this chapter. Remember, those of you guys online, you can put your questions in the Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or raise your hand in Zoom. And those of you guys here, if you'd like to raise your hand, you can get a microphone and ask any questions that you like. Any questions here? No? Okay. So let's move on to the next chapter then. Is there someone who would like to volunteer to read this one? By the way, what you have here in these books, which you all have access to, is you have the words of the Buddha, which is an excerpt, because oftentimes the Buddha is teaching a really long discourse, and this has been extracted to give you kind of one little piece. This is one particular piece of his teachings, and this is the reference that takes you back to the original source teachings in the Pali Canon. And then you have reflections from me that help you to understand this particular teaching that you can read as well. And all of these chapters will have that. So here I'm describing what moral wrongdoing and moral concern is, for example. So this is chapter 42. Is there someone who would like to read this?
Few animals are reborn among human beings or heavenly beings. What do you think, monks? Which is more, the little bit of soil in my fingernail, or the great earth? Venerable sir, the great earth is more. The little bit of soil that the perfectly enlightened one has taken up in his fingernail is insignificant. Compared to the great earth, the little bit of soil that the perfectly enlightened one has taken up in his fingernail is not calculable, does not bear comparison, does not even amount even to a fraction. So too, monks, those beings who are few who, when they pass away from the animal realm, are reborn among human beings, but those beings are more numerous who, when they pass away from the animal realm, are reborn in hell, in the animal realm, in the realm of afflicted spirits. For what reason? Because monks, they do not they have not seen the Four Noble Truths. What for? The noble truth of discontentedness, the noble truth of the cause of discontentedness, the noble truth of the elimination of discontentedness, the noble truth of the way leading to the elimination of discontentedness. Therefore, monks, an effort should be made to understand this is discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand this is the cause of discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand this is the elimination of discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand this is the way leading to the elimination of discontentedness. What do you think, monks? Which is more, the little bit of soil in my fingernail or the great earth? Venerable Sir, the great earth is more. The little bit of soil that perfectly enlightened one has taken up in his fingernail is insignificant. Compared to the great earth, the little bit of soil that perfectly enlightened one has taken up in his fingernail is not calculable, does not bear comparison, and does not amount even to a fraction. So too, monks, those beings are few who, when they pass away from the animal realm, are reborn among the heavenly beings. But those beings are more numerous who, when they pass away from the animal realm, are reborn in hell, in the animal realm, in the realm of afflicted spirits. For what reason? Because, monks, they have not seen the Four Noble Truths. What for? The noble truth of discontentedness, the noble truth of the cause of discontentedness, the noble truth of the elimination of discontentedness, the noble truth of the way leading to the elimination of discontentedness. Therefore, monks, an effort should be made to understand this is discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand this is the cause of discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand this is the elimination of discontentedness. An effort should be made to understand this is the way leading to the elimination of discontentedness.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. So these chapters that we're looking at today, at least the first few, are all about the animal realm. And we studied some more last week from the animal realm as well. This book is organized where first we explored the hell realm. Now we're in the animal realm. We're going to have a couple of chapters today about the afflicted spirit realm, and then ultimately moving on to the other realms throughout the entire book. So here the Buddha is using this analogy that he will typically use when he's talking about different things. This isn't the only discourse where he talks about this. He'll say, what's more, the soil that's under my fingernail or this great earth? And they're like, oh, of course, that the amount of soil under your fingernail is incalculable or insignificant compared to the great earth. And he says, okay, so too are the beings who pass away from the animal realm who are reborn into the human realm, right? He's saying that this is a few of those beings because there's just trillions and trillions and trillions of beings in the animal realm, and they just keep being reborn over and over and over and over in that realm, or in the hell realm, or in the afflicted spirit realm. That's what he's saying, that when beings pass away from the animal realm, they're often reborn into hell, in the animal realm, in the afflicted spirit realm, because it's very challenging to get out of that animal realm. And then he says, for what reason? Because they haven't seen the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths is the very first beginning teaching of the Buddha. This is where in 4 simple statements, you learn about the problem in the unenlightened mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. This is where I start students when they first start learning with me. And I'm going to be teaching this on Monday in our retreat that it's going to be coming up. And I've taught this at other times. It's been recorded on our YouTube channel and Facebook, on our podcast. I have it in our books and our audiobooks. All this stuff is available for you where you could learn the Four Noble Truths. Because by learning the Four Noble Truths, you have this breakthrough where you finally understand what's causing your anger, what's causing your sadness, what's causing your loneliness and your boredom. The unenlightened mind doesn't have the wisdom to understand what's causing these feelings to occur. And as long as you don't understand what's causing it, you won't be able to fix it. You won't be able to solve it. So as long as the mind falsely believes that other people are causing you to be angry, you'll push people away from you. This is called aversion, where you'll push people or you'll push a situation away. And it doesn't solve the problem because you just get irritated or annoyed or frustrated about something else. It's just a matter of time. Or you'll become bitter and harsh and hostile towards somebody, thinking that the problem is external. You might be bitter and hostile and have animosity or resentfulness towards other people. Or you might put your expectations on people and trying to control people to do things your way. And in all of these situations, you can't live harmoniously with all beings because you'll push people away. You'll be bitter and harsh and hostile. They might choose to leave out of your life. Or you'll put your expectations on people and now they feel pressured and they don't want to be in your life anymore because they feel so pressured, right? So as long as you misunderstand what the problem is, then you'll continue to do these things, which we've all done at different times in our past. But when you cultivate the wisdom to understand the true problem is inside your mind, the Buddha's Four Noble Truths in 4 simple statements, he explains to you why your mind is experiencing these different feelings, these discontent feelings, and you can independently verify it through your own direct experience. Essentially, what you come to understand is that it's craving, desire, attachment, mental longing, and strong eagerness, the wanting, the expecting, that if you get what you want, you get happy, you get excited, you get elated because you get what you want. But when you don't get what you want, when you don't get what you expect, you get angry and you get frustrated, you get agitated. The mind is craving permanence. It's wanting things to be permanently comfortable, but yet you live in an impermanent world. Nothing around you is permanent, but yet the mind keeps craving for things to be permanent. So when you were in a relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend and you guys broke up, you were discontent, you were angry, you were sad, you were lonely, you were bored, you were missing this person, whatever feelings you were experiencing, because you were craving for this relationship to be permanent. Where when you first got together, you got all these pleasant feelings because you were getting what you wanted. You're getting affection, somebody calling you, checking in on you. Maybe you're going to the movies. Maybe you're going to dinner. You might have been having intimate contact at different times. So, wow, it feels so great. You got all these happy feelings because someone was showing you affection. Your mind was craving for this relationship to be permanent. So when you guys separated, now the mind struggles in that situation because it doesn't like impermanence. The unenlightened mind has this craving, this longing, this yearning, wanting things to be permanent. And when it experiences this impermanence, then it struggles and has difficulties. Same thing like if you've had someone close to you die, like maybe grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, friends, family members pass away, you might have grieved during that time. It's not because you're a bad person, and it's not because of love that you were grieving. What caused the grief is the craving, the desire, wanting this person to be permanent, not realizing that they are impermanent. Or if you ever went to a wedding and you cried at a wedding, the same thing. The mind's holding on to this person, wanting them to be permanent. Or if you were ever dropped off at college and either you or your parents cried when they dropped you off at university, or like when we were little kids and we went away to kindergarten, we might have really cried when they separated us from our mom and dad for the first time for this long period of time. We cried. Oh, we were so upset. We were discontent because we were craving permanence. We wanted to hold on to mom and dad permanently. Or if you've ever had a car or some other material object and it got a scratch on it or it broke and you were upset, this is because you're craving permanence. But all these things in the world around you are impermanent. But the unenlightened mind doesn't understand that that's a universal truth. That's one of the natural laws, is that all these things around you are impermanent. Your relationships, your job, your bank account, all these different things, your clothes, the weather. If you wake up in the morning and you see it's sunny outside, you might get so excited and so happy, because the mind's craving to go outside and play and go hiking. But then when you go take a shower and you come out and you see it's raining, you might be sad or frustrated or irritated because the mind formed its happiness based on the condition of the sun. And when your mind saw the sun, you formed this conditional feeling that based on the sun being there, I will be happy. But now when you experienced impermanence, because the sun is not permanent, the unenlightened mind didn't understand that. It had certain cravings, certain desires, certain longing and yearning. And now when you experience this change, the mind didn't understand that everything around you is impermanent. So that conditioned feeling of happiness, it arose, it changed, and it faded away. It left you because you formed a conditioned feeling. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you're not having conditioned feelings anymore. You're beyond that the mind is experiencing unconditioned peace and joy. Where in the unenlightened mind, you can only be happy if this condition is met, and this condition is met, and this condition is met, and this condition is met. If my mom does this, if my boss does this, if my bank account is this, right? If these things occur, I will be happy. But when those things don't happen, you'll be sad or frustrated or irritated. So by the time you get to enlightenment, you train your mind to no longer form conditioned feelings. So you're beyond this. You can just always be peaceful and joyful, no matter what your bank account is, no matter whether your mom calls you or not, no matter what your boss does or says, you can be peaceful and joyful regardless. So this takes training to be able to do. So the Buddha's teachings on the Four Noble Truths is that first teaching that I will walk you through to help you see very clearly what your mind is doing. And it takes me about 45 minutes to an hour to really teach it to you thoroughly, but then you can independently verify it and you can see for yourself. You can do what's called establishing right view, where you establish the right view that it's your own mind that's causing your own discontent feelings. You can take responsibility and accountability for your feelings. What wrong view is to blame other people or to think that other people are causing you to be angry. And as long as you go around falsely believing that, having that misperception, having that misunderstanding and that lack of wisdom, you'll continue to be angry over and over and over again. But when you can understand what the real problem is, and you can implement the solutions that the Buddha provides you, now you can get to a real fix. You can get to a real solution. And you can independently verify this is occurring, that your mind's becoming more and more peaceful. So the Buddha is saying that having not learned the Four Noble Truths, those beings in the animal realm are very likely to be reborn into hell, the animal realm, or the afflicted spirit realm, because they don't understand what they don't understand. They haven't had this breakthrough to understanding what's truly causing their discontent feelings. And then he says the same thing about beings in the animal realm, that they're very unlikely to be reborn into the heavenly realm, right? Because of the same reason that they haven't seen the Four Noble Truths, the very first beginning teaching to help you be able to get to this enlightened mental state where you eliminate all your discontent feelings. So any questions on this chapter? You can ask here or online. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. I have a question. Yes, ma'am. If you could get a mic.
Sorry. Usually the animal never, or it's really difficult to get out from the circle, vicious circle, like so. And then, but it said it's a really few animal could get out from the vicious circle. Mm-hmm. And then I wonder what kind of case could get out from the vicious cycle.
Sure. So animals that aren't doing a lot of killing and stealing and sexual misconduct tend to be more likely to be reborn into the human realm. But those beings in the animal realm, they'll be constantly reborn in that realm over and over and over again until they eventually get to an improved existence, either within that realm or maybe in an afflicted spirit realm, and then eventually make it to the human realm. So all of us here in the human realm, we've had countless rebirths in this animal realm first, before we ever made it to the human world. So while it's very rare for an animal to go from the animal realm to the human realm, all of us here, we've been in the animal realm. I can pretty much assure you that. But there's trillions and trillions of beings in the animal realm that are constantly being reborn over and over and over again. And right now there's 10 billion of us here in the human realm that have made it to the human realm. But that's a very small number compared to the amount of animals that are in the animal realm. So eventually beings will get to a human realm or heavenly realm in order to be able to get to enlightenment. But it's just, the Buddha is saying it's very rare for this to occur. You can go through countless rebirths before you get a chance to get into the human realm. And ultimately what he comes to in all the various teachings that he shares is, like I mentioned, this is an ideal existence, and don't allow it to go to waste. Don't allow this human existence to go to waste. So once you are in that animal realm, you can get to an improved existence like an elephant, a turtle, a rabbit, things like this that aren't actually killing, and they're living a more conducive life based on the natural laws of existence, because these natural laws affect you whether you're aware of them or not, right? Even though you're unaware of these natural laws, they're affecting you, just like gravity. Even though we didn't know about gravity, it was still affecting us whether we knew about it or not. So those animals are still being affected by these natural laws. So if they're doing a lot of killing, this is why they have a shorter lifespan, and they tend to not be able to get into the human realm until they experience multiple rebirths, ultimately getting to like an elephant, a rabbit, a turtle, or something like this, and then they can get into the human realm more readily.
Okay, thanks so much. So it's a really complicated thing. So because I try to imagine, but it's very difficult. But maybe so. What my understanding is about animals. So, for example, the elephant and the dogs and the carrot, and sometimes really contribute to the human beings. And then, so even it seems like they might be human beings. So we can see dog and carrot, but inside, so it seems like human beings. So those animals might happen to reborn into human beings.
Yeah, you can see this in the various realms, that you can see like human beings who function very much like beings from heaven, right? But you can also see human beings that function very much as if they're hell beings or animals or afflicted spirits. And you can also see animals who function a bit more wisely, almost like a human being. And these are beings that are in a particular realm, but they're headed towards another realm. So you can have animals that are headed towards the human realm. Even though it's rare, it happens quite readily. But because there's so many trillions and trillions of beings in the animal realm, if 1 million or 500 million in any particular time frame get to the human realm, that's how many get to the human realm. But you can see animals that are functioning more like human beings, and they can be more loving and more kind and friendly and compassionate. But you can also see animals that function very much like hell beings, that are very bitter and very aggressive and very hostile. And these are beings who are in a particular realm, but they're headed towards a different realm. And this is where you can see the same thing in the human realm. You can see human beings that function like animals or hell beings or afflicted spirits or even heavenly beings. But this path to enlightenment, it's all about becoming a better and better human being, where you're functioning with deeper and deeper wisdom. And this is why by the time you get to that first stage of enlightenment, you're reborn back into the human realm, because you're now functioning like a better and better human being. You're no longer going to be reborn into the lower realms.
Okay, thank you so much. So maybe including me, we might be a kind of the result of a lot of tons of times reborn.
Yeah, this could be someone's potentially first rebirth out of the lower realms, their first human birth. But for some people, this could be their second, third, fourth, fifth human birth too. Some people could have been reborn out of the heavenly realm into the human realm as well. So people are coming from these different realms, and the condition of your consciousness is going to be based on your previous experiences in this life as well. But now in the human realm, you have the perfect opportunity to be able to cultivate your consciousness. And that's what you guys are doing by being here at the temple, is to learn and grow and develop and train your mind and cultivate the consciousness, which is going to help you in this life. And should you not get to enlightenment, it will surely help you in your next life too.
Maybe so we should appreciate so much about this situation.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Really treasure this life and do something wonderful with it in terms of cultivating the mind. Okay. I don't see any other questions, and I don't see any online either. So let's go to the next chapter. Let's see what chapter 43 is. Okay, we're moving into the section of afflicted spirits because in our past class we studied a bunch of chapters about the animal realm. So now these chapters are about the afflicted spirits. Some people refer to this afflicted spirit realm as hungry ghosts because the beings in this afflicted spirit realm, they have a lot of craving. So what you have maybe been exposed to as a ghost, maybe you've had experiences where you've seen ghosts. That's what a afflicted spirit is, or some people call it a hungry ghost. Maybe you've never experienced that whatsoever, and that's fine. That's where you are today. But at some point, you may actually interact with beings in this afflicted spirit realm, and if you do, you don't need to be shaken up by it. You're not going to be hurt. You're not going to be affected by it. Just maintain your calmness and composure. But here, the Buddha is going to start going in and explaining what he's discovered about these particular beings in this particular realm. And this is actually quite a long discourse, so I'm not going to have you guys read it, but just know that he's actually explaining various situations where he's seen afflicted spirits and what his encounters were with these beings. I'll just kind of come down here to the very bottom one where here he's talking about an unwholesome novice monk, an unwholesome novice female ordained practitioner, where he's saying, okay, he saw this individual in the air, right? That he saw this formless being. So there's a whole lot of description here of that. So if you guys have any questions after reading that, you can let me know. You can see even here, I didn't really explain it much because the Buddha is just explaining situations where he's seen afflicted spirits. That's all he's talking about. So there's really nothing to teach there. And then here, this is actually just like the chapter we just read related to the animal realm, where the Buddha is saying it's very rare for an animal to be reborn into the human or heavenly realm, more likely to be reborn in hell, animal or afflicted spirit. He's saying the same thing here about the afflicted spirits. He's using the exact same teaching. He's saying those who pass away in the afflicted spirit realm, it's very few that they come into the human realm. They're more likely to be reborn in hell, animal, or afflicted spirit, because that's the lower realms, and it's like a prison, almost being trapped, being reborn in there over and over and over again. And the reason why is because they haven't seen the Four Noble Truths. And then he explains the same thing, that it's very rare for a being in the afflicted spirit realm to be reborn into the heavenly realm, because having not seen the Four Noble Truths. So we can skip over all of those. And now he's talking about the human realm. And he has a lot of discourses on the human realm, which is actually much more helpful for you. So we can read this one, chapter 45. Would somebody like to read this one? Nobody? Okay. Maybe we're in class. You guys aren't interested to study? You guys would like to end here? Okay. We can end here. Okay. So I'll just help for those of you guys that have been studying these. I know some of you guys have been studying these. This is the 10 courses of wholesome karma. This is where the Buddha is teaching about this cause and effect, this natural law of karma, and how to make wise decisions around your body, speech, and mind. And I think you guys that have been studying this, you guys have probably seen this in other books as well. And he's just kind of giving details on how to practice these in order to train your mind to experience wholesome karma, right? And it's because of people engaging in these 10 courses of wholesome karma that heavenly beings, humans, they're reborn into these various realms. And that's what would lead to rebirth into these realms. But that's not the ultimate goal, is to be reborn there. Siddharth, do you have any questions on that one?
I have a general question.
Okay.
How do you verify these different realms? Like, what are different ways to verify?
Sure. So for me, I've experienced contact with beings in each of these 5 realms, but not everybody's experienced that, so they don't have direct experience to be able to have that background. But there's other ways that you can verify this, like what I forget your name. How do you pronounce your name? My name? Yeah. Junko. Okay. Another person from Japan, Junko, when she was talking about how there's animals that function more like humans, right? You can see that. You can see humans that function very much like animals. You can see our fascination in the human realm with the animal realm. We have pets that living with us a lot of places. People wear animal prints. We even have phrases like, you're acting like cats and dogs, or you're fighting like cats and dogs, or stop acting like an animal. You're acting like a wild animal, right? So we have these different phrases. There's many different things you can see in the human realm of how beings function, like either a hell being, an animal, or afflicted spirits. Like this explains why someone being reborn into the human realm, maybe by the age of 20, 25, 30, they become a serial murderer, is what we would refer to them as. This is oftentimes someone who's coming out of like a existence as like a lion or a tiger who's constantly killing. They come into the human realm and now they're still killing. They still have that craving to kill. You can even have human beings who eat other human beings, right? This is just like a individual who's in the animal realm, right? So you can see these kinds of things. You can verify these different realms through having contact, but it's not something that you should go out of your way to accomplish, because there's so many other things to learn and develop on the path to enlightenment. But as you're lifting the pollution out of your mind and you've got your arms around the core central teachings and you're finding like, hey, I've got some more time here to study. I've kind of got all of these teachings under way pretty well. Now you might start exploring the cycle of rebirth, and there's 15 individual things that I can give you to help you independently verify the cycle of rebirth. Just send me a message and I'll send that back to you, where you can independently verify the cycle of rebirth. And there's very simple things that I tend to invite people in at a very beginning stage like this. If you've ever experienced deja vu, for any of you guys that know what that is, where like you're doing something right now and it feels so familiar to you. You know you've done this thing before, but it hasn't been in this life. You know you haven't done this thing. This is a residual memory from a past life that is surfacing to the mind, helping you to remember like, hey, you've done this before. Or if you've ever known like a 4 or 6 year old person who's never seen a piano in their life, and they go over to a piano and they can play masterful piano. This is like maybe classical piano at the age of 4 or 6, and they've never even seen a piano before. This is the residual memories from past lives where they were doing that in a past life, and now at the age of 4 or 6 or older, they can play masterful piano, having never taken a lesson from anybody whatsoever. And it's not just piano, but there's other things like this, whether it's a musical instrument or even languages. There's people who are born and then by the time they're 4, 6, 8, 10 years old, they can speak like 5 different languages, and they've never even studied those languages before. This is the residual memories from their past lives. So there's all this evidence that helps you to be able to see the cycle of rebirth is true, but you just maybe haven't looked at it and understood it through the cycle of rebirth. But once you get your core central teachings underway, that's a good time to start looking at this, because as you start lifting this pollution out of your mind, you might start experiencing certain things like schizophrenia, like you and I were talking about that just recently. Oftentimes these beings are experiencing voices that they hear in their head, and what they're being told is that they're crazy or they're going insane or they have a mental disorder. But in reality, this is communication from beings from other realms, and they just don't understand it. They don't understand how to process it. And oftentimes if it's very dark, very graphic type of communication, these are beings from hell realm or the afflicted spirit realm, and now that human being might be influenced to go out and do something harmful. But you can also experience contact with beings from the heavenly realm that are typically trying to motivate you to do wholesome things. But if you view this as just like if you were sitting in a restaurant and there was a person next to you talking at a table, you would just ignore it and stay focused on your conversation. You can do the same thing and train your mind to no longer be influenced by beings from hell, the afflicted spirit realm. But the heavenly realm, they're often trying to help you so you can actually, kind of listen and understand. But then still, sometimes those beings have a certain amount of craving and you just need to kind of ignore them. And you can train your mind to do that, because if you give them attention, they will tend to come at you more and more and more, which is what a person who's been diagnosed with schizophrenia is oftentimes experiencing. They just don't know how to process that and how to deal with it. So there's all these different indications that people haven't necessarily put together that can help you confirm this when you're ready to do that. But this isn't something I would suggest you start with, is confirming these things, but more learning the core central teachings like the Four Noble Truths. Okay, so since you guys aren't interested in reading that, I'll just show you guys, because some people here have been studying with me and some people online, you guys might have questions about these things. Here, the Buddha is talking about the 5 advantages of wholesome morality and of a success in morality. Here he's explaining what you'll experience as a result of making wise decisions and training your mind to practice through the natural law of karma. And there's some very helpful things there to learn, and you can see here that I've explained it for you to be able to help you learn it and understand it. And then here the Buddha is explaining that it's your deeds and the way that you conduct yourself that's going to determine your rebirth. He's explaining all of that. It's not based on the totality of everything you've done in your life. So it's not like there's someone sitting somewhere judging you and deciding whether you go to what particular realm. It's based on the condition of your mind at the time of death. And based on what you've done in your life, if you've been a very angry, very hostile, very bitter, very aggressive person, then by the time you die, you're going to most likely be reborn in the lower realms. But if you've cultivated your mind to be peaceful and joyful, live harmoniously with others, you can get to enlightenment in this life, or if there is rebirth, you may come back into the human realm or the heavenly realm. So the Buddha is explaining that here in this particular discourse. And let's see what else we've got here. He's just kind of talking about these different populations of people, and he's talking about how these human beings are actually practicing in a better way than these heavenly beings. And he's explaining why these human beings are practicing in a better way than these heavenly beings. And I explained that for you guys. And then here he's talking about how one is born. During the lifetime of the Buddha, there wasn't the educational systems that we have nowadays. Like, we know that an individual in the human realm is born from an egg, a sperm, and a consciousness. We know that because we learned it in biology as we grow up. But 2,500 years ago, they didn't have these educational systems. So the Buddha had discovered all of these things on his own without any scientific equipment or anything. He understood how beings came into the world, and he was explaining to his students how this occurred, because people were coming to him for education about the world around them and how things occur and why they occur. So here he's explaining the union of the mother and father, the mother being in season, and the consciousness. Essentially what he's talking about is an egg, a sperm, and a consciousness coming together, and that's what creates a being. And he even talks about the grief and heavy burden that a mother experiences, the anxiety that she experiences to bring a baby into the world. And then he talks about a woman nourishing the baby. Sometimes people think that the Buddha somehow denigrated women or looked down on women. This isn't true at all. If you read his teachings and you study his teachings, he's talking very positively about everybody. He teaches, you can see in different parts of his teachings where he's teaching husbands how to take very good care of their wife and to respect their wife and to honor their wife. So sometimes people don't understand because they haven't actually studied the original teachings of the Buddha. But for someone who studied the original teachings, the Buddha has nothing but respect and treating people well, all genders and all types of people. He never denigrates or diminishes anybody whatsoever. That's what an enlightened being would do. So here he's talking about different things. And then here the last one is he's just talking about how a embryo, or what we would call a fetus, grows inside of a mother's womb. And he's using language here that existed during the lifetime of the Buddha that we no longer use. But he understood all of that without having a microscope, without having camera technology, without having the scientific studies. He understood how a being grows inside the womb of a woman. So he was describing that here to his students. So I'll just end here with all of this, but let me just open up to any questions, because we've talked about a lot of different things. Do you guys have any questions on meditation or the teachings of the Buddha or anything that I've introduced you to today? You guys are welcome to ask those questions. You have a question? Yeah, sure.
This is my first time here. You mentioned that you do this every week and that you have courses and such. Is there some information that we can get on how to become more involved?
Sure. The website is the best place to go because we have all the online resources there and the online programs. We even have the in-person classes, courses, and retreats. So our website is buddhadailywisdom.com. You'll see a full description of each of the individual classes, courses, and retreats. You can even register, and then it will email you the information to either attend here or log on through our website or through online learning. I have some of the information over there on the bulletin board where you can scan some QR codes and it'll take you directly to some of the pages, and you see the calendar as well. Online, we have a calendar view as well. And if you ever are curious, you can always ask me. You can send me a private message, or you can talk to me after class and say, hey, I'm just starting on the path. What do you have coming up that you recommend for me? Or, hey, I've been studying at these temples over here, or I've been reading some books about these types of things. What would be the best place for me to start? And I can help you guys with those kinds of things, because the way that students get help from me is you can come to class like this and ask questions either online or in person. We have a Facebook group with about 16,000 people that you can ask questions in there, and I'm the only one who answers your question. That's a second way you can get help. You can send me a private message online, or you can schedule personal guidance with me, either here in Chiang Mai or even online as you guys travel. There's a website that you can log on to from our website. There's a link that you can schedule an appointment, and we'll meet in Zoom one-on-one, because it's one thing learning teachings in class, but it's a whole other thing applying it to your specific unique situation. And sometimes people feel comfortable asking those questions in class, but other times they like to talk more privately and personally. So those are the 4 ways you can get help, is by attending classes, asking there, posting in the Facebook group, sending a private message, or scheduling personal guidance. And then the various classes, courses, and retreats, they're on our website or on this bulletin board over there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. I would suggest that if anybody's interested in getting started, is to start with the first book. You can either download it, you can take it and go print it, or you can order printed copies online at Amazon, or getting them here at the temple. The first book is the best place to start, because there you'll see the entire path, laying a foundation and a framework. And then these various courses that I teach, the various retreats, they will cover the foundational teachings at different times. You'll see courses like Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment, Harmony in Relationships, Experiencing the Jhanas and the 4 Stages of Enlightenment. This retreat that I'm teaching starting tomorrow, it's called Developing a Life Practice to Attain the First Stage of Enlightenment. It's all the teachings you need to be able to get to the first stage of enlightenment. You won't be at the first stage of enlightenment at the end of those 5 days, but you'll have all the teachings that you need in order to get to that point. And then you'll be able to continue to develop and grow from that point forward. So there's plenty of help for you. You just need to decide that you're done with anger. You're done with sadness. You're tired of feeling lonely and bored and all these other discontent feelings. And there's help here to help you be able to experience this enlightened mental state. So thank you guys for your questions. Thank you for reading. Thank you for coming to the temple, deciding today is a day that you would like to learn the teachings of the Buddha. Perhaps we'll see you guys in one of these future classes. Be well and have a lovely rest of your day. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.